This story is about an old man named Martin who falls in love with a beautiful woman named Gemma and tries to get closer to her. The question is, will Martin be able to win Gemma over? Let's find out in this story. The movie's plot is quite intriguing, so be sure to watch it till the end. The story begins with Martin, an old man who runs a bakery in a small village in France. We learn that Martin came to this village 7 years ago. His father used to own the bakery, which Martin now runs with his wife. One day, while Martin is baking bread, it gets slightly burnt. His wife asks why he seems so worried. Martin explains that he was thinking about Charlie and was worried he might attempt suicide. His wife reassures him that Charlie would not do such a thing. Later, Martin goes to Charlie's house. There, he finds Charlie burning his wife Gemma's belongings. Why Charlie is doing this will be revealed as the story unfolds. Charlie steps inside for something, and Martin finds Gemma's diary lying there. He takes the diary with him. Back home, Martin begins reading the diary, and the story shifts to a flashback. We see the day when Charlie first came to the village with his wife, Gemma, planning to spend the rest of their lives there peacefully. Seeing new people in the village, Martin approaches them and introduces himself. A few days later, Gemma and Charlie visit Martin's bakery to buy bread. Martin is captivated by Gemma's beauty and cannot take his eyes off her. Later, as Martin is on his way home, he runs into Gemma again. This time, he takes her to see a beautiful garden, which Gemma finds delightful. That night, Charlie visits Martin's house, saying the electricity in his house has gone out. Martin accompanies Charlie to fix the issue. While they are at Charlie's house, Martin's wife also joins them. The group drinks wine and chats together. However, during this time, Martin keeps staring at Gemma, lost in his thoughts about her. A few days pass like this. One day, Gemma comes to Martin's bakery. Martin asks her, "Would you like to see how I make this bread?" Gemma happily agrees. Martin then takes her to the back room where he makes the bread. As Gemma tries her hand at making bread, Martin asks, "How are you feeling?" Gemma replies, "I feel great. It feels like I'm doing yoga." The room is quite warm, and Gemma starts feeling hot, so she takes off her sweater. Seeing Gemma like this, Martin begins to feel a surge of excitement. Later in the story, we see Martin and his wife having lunch with Gemma and her friends. During this lunch, when Gemma is exploring her friend's house, her friend advises her girls should always take care of their bodies and keep their figures toned. "I exercise every day." Gemma agrees with her and decides to start exercising the next day. Sometime later, Martin runs into Gemma on the road and asks, "Why haven't you come to buy bread for so many days?" Gemma replies, "I'm on a diet, so I've stopped eating bread for a while." Just as she is about to leave, a bug suddenly bites her on her back. Gemma cries out in pain and calls Martin over, saying, "Take this bug out of my back." Martin carefully lifts the back of her dress and looks at the bug. He says, "You've been bitten by a poisonous bug. I'll have to suck the venom out." Gemma says, "Do it quickly and get the venom out." Without wasting any time, Martin starts sucking on her back with his lips. Just then, a boy named Neil arrives and asks Martin, "What are you doing?" Martin tries to explain the situation. Suddenly, Gemma collapses to the ground and faints. Seeing this, Neil and Martin immediately rush her to the hospital. The doctor gives her an injection and says, "There's nothing to worry about now." On the way back home, in the car, Gemma rests her head on Martin's shoulder and falls asleep. Seeing this, Martin feels very happy and starts believing that maybe Gemma has started to like him too. The next day, Martin stands outside his shop and sees Gemma talking to Neil. This sight doesn't sit well with him. Later, when Gemma is at the supermarket buying wine, she runs into Neil again. Neil suggests a wine he likes, and Gemma decides to buy it. Sometime after, Martin is returning home after delivering bread. On the way, he sees Gemma heading somewhere. Martin stops to watch her and notices that she's going to Neil's house. He feels surprised but convinces himself that maybe she's there for some work. However, this assumption turns out to be wrong. That evening, Martin goes to Gemma's house for dinner. During the meal, he notices a love bite on Gemma's neck, and it becomes clear to him that she is having an affair with Neil. This realization leaves Martin heartbroken, as he had started liking Gemma and had been dreaming of being close to her. The next day, Martin sees Neil, who appears to be upset. Martin asks, "What's the matter?" Neil admits that he's unable to focus on his studies. Martin suggests, "Why don't you call your girlfriend over? Maybe she can help you concentrate." Not long after, Martin notices Gemma visiting Neil's house again. A little later, he catches sight of them being intimate inside the house. This confirms Martin's suspicions that Gemma and Neil are having an affair. Days pass by, and Martin finds himself consumed with thoughts of Gemma. One day, Gemma happily comes to Martin's bakery and tells him that Charlie will be out of town for a few days. Martin quickly realizes why Gemma is so cheerful. She plans to spend her time with Neil while Charlie is away. Gemma buys some bread but accidentally leaves a piece behind at the bakery. Martin takes the bread to Gemma's house. When he arrives, he hears some noises from inside. He hides and peeks through the window, only to see Gemma and Neil being intimate. Then, he hears Gemma telling Neil, "I love you." This angers Martin greatly. The following day, Gemma visits Neil's house again. While being intimate, they accidentally break a statue. Before leaving, Gemma tells Neil, "We should run away to London." Neil agrees with her. The next day, Gemma is once again on her way to Neil's house. However, she receives a message from Neil saying that he can't go to London with her. Reading the message, Gemma is deeply shocked and returns home in tears. One night, Gemma tries to confess her affair to Charlie, but she lacks the courage to do so. Charlie, on the other hand, begins to sense that Gemma is not paying any attention to him. Frustrated, Charlie decides to leave for London for a few days. Sometime later, Gemma runs into her ex-boyfriend, Patrick. In the very next scene, Martin sees them kissing on the street. This shocks Martin, and he begins to think of Gemma as someone who could form relationships with anyone. The following day, Patrick visits Gemma's house again. While they are talking, Charlie unexpectedly returns home. As soon as Charlie enters the house, he comes running back out, shouting for help. Hearing this, Martin rushes inside and finds Gemma dead. He is utterly stunned by the sight. The police arrive shortly after and take Gemma's body for a post-mortem. When the report comes back, it is revealed that Gemma died because a piece of bread got stuck in her throat. At the funeral, Martin shares this information with Charlie. Charlie responds, "Yes, Gemma died because of that. When I arrived home, I found Patrick with her. I thought he was trying to get romantic with her, and in a fit of rage, I started fighting with him." Patrick, who is also at the funeral, speaks up and explains, "When Gemma was eating bread, I came up behind her and kissed her. That's when the bread got stuck in her throat. I was trying to help her get it out when Charlie walked in. Misunderstanding the situation, he started fighting with me. We became so caught up in the fight that we didn't realize Gemma was choking, and she suffocated to death." With this, the flashback ends. In the final scene, Martin's son tells him, "A Russian couple has come to stay with us." Hearing this, Martin immediately goes to meet them. Please like and subscribe for more video like this. Thanks for watching.